All right, here we are. Welcome, everybody, to episode 8 of Hanging Left. My name is Matt Connerton, and of course, with me, as always, my partner in crime in this venture, Todd Ayre, is here. Hi, Todd.
How are you?
Good. Todd, how's it hanging?
Hanging left as I can hang. I really make sure to get it down in that left
Excellent.
direction.
Good for you. I appreciate the commitment to that. We have a couple of guests with us.
It's exciting, very
Double
exciting.
trouble.
Now, one of these folks works with you on a daily basis, correct?
They both do actually,
both
but maybe we kept that private because now it looks like I wanted them to think that these guys came on their own fruition and there was no.
I know we were just pulled off the street.
There was no coercion.
No, there was no coercion though. But still.
We didn't kidnap them in a U-Haul and bring them here. Or anything
No,
like that.
no ice kid.
Good. So we have Jason up there in the upper right hand corner. It kind of looks like Hollywood Squares. Hi, Jason.
Hello. Oh, I should have put a last name. I just realized you all have last names. So yeah, I'm Jason Quinno. I'm working on Sarah's campaign with Todd. I'm a college student. Before working with Sarah, my main experience, like politically wise, has been my involvement in 5051, a large pro-democracy nonprofit movement that's popped up throughout the country, but particularly the New Hampshire branch of it. We host large protests in Concord all the time. I know Andrew, not to jump into his thing, but a lot of his experience has been doing photography for them. Oh my God, I can't speak today. But yeah.
Good.
And how's it hanging, Jason?
It's hanging pretty left. I like to,
Good.
somewhere between the Social Democrat and Democratic Socialist, like somewhere around that left, I think.
Okay. Very good. And we have Andrew. How do you say your last name? Is it Voorhees?
Voorhees. Yep. Just like Friday the 13th. Yep.
Oh, and by the way, Andrew, just a quick plug, shameless plug for my radio show. You're on my radio show this weekend as well, Matt Connerton Unleashed, live on Saturday morning. So really looking forward to that.
We should all tune in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jenny and I will get to sit with Andrew in person. So tell us about yourself, Andrew.
Yeah, so I was born and raised here in New Hampshire. As Jason said, I'm a photographer. I've done a lot of stuff with 5051, and I'm also working on Sarah's campaign as their campaign photographer as well. I do mainly do a lot of political stuff, photojournalism, but I also do non-political stuff such as motorsports. I've done a lot of stuff with the NHMX up in Epping, stuff like that. So I'm kind of jack of all trades when it comes to photography. I do a lot of wildlife stuff as well, mainly political stuff, protests, covering events, and photojournalism.
Well, I feel like there's a crossover map between that wildlife footage and the political stuff. I mean, there's a lot of wildlife inside politics. So, Andrew, that probably is easy for you to transition.
Absolutely.
And how's it hanging, Andrew?
It's hanging left. Definitely left. We are staying over there.
By the way, Jenny is in the chat room. We are streaming the show live. I neglected to mention that. Of course, most people will listen to the podcast, but Jenny is in the chat room right now. Hello, Jenny. It's not showing up on the screen when I click it. I don't know why, but I can see it. Yeah, we are streaming, of course, Facebook, YouTube, even LinkedIn and various other places. So should we talk about what happened this weekend, over the past weekend, the big rage against the regime in Concord? It was, depending on what news outlets you pay attention to, there might have been a slight kerfuffle or Channel 9 made it sound like I said this on social media. The report that I saw, they made it sound like it was just, there were some Nazis out for a summer stroll. And and they were briefly impeded upon before climbing into a U-Haul and driving away. But other places reported on it with a little more seriousness and gravitas. But I wasn't there, but all three of you were, correct?
Yeah. Yes. Well, the strolling they weren't doing, I didn't really see a lot of goose walking. That would have also, I think, taken a level of rhythm, which they didn't have. So, I don't know, Andrew, what do you think? You saw them first. He was the one that saw them in the distance, the ever-burning swastika in the dark, blazing through the darkness. Well, there was no darkness, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. It was during the day.
Yeah. So I usually typically always arrive about an hour before, the protests and the actions start. And, I came around the corner of the Capitol building. I usually have music going on in my car. I can't really drive without it. But I heard as I parked, I heard a megaphone going off. And at first I was like, oh, cool. Someone's already on the megaphone. We're already getting people fired up. But as I stepped out of my car, I saw like groups of people all with their phones out, taking videos and recording. I'm like, usually people aren't really paying attention all that much. You know what I mean? And then I started to walk onto the actual lawn of the Capitol building where the first thing I saw was the swastika flag.
Yeah.
And then I really started to pay attention to more of like what was being said. And then I looked, and again, they're all lined up right there, their red shirts, their masks. And I really couldn't believe it at first, to be honest with you. I mean, I never, being born and raised in New Hampshire, like, we're pretty tame around here in my experience.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? It's not, I never thought I would come up and, be faced with Nazis.
Right. So you had swastika cherry popped, I see. Okay.
I guess that's the way you could put it. Yeah. And just the fact that you're going to sit there and say the things that you said while wearing a mask, like, again, it's like a lot of people were also yelling at them, including me, like, if you're so proud of it, why are you wearing a mask?
Right.
I mean,
and actually, Jason, I think you put out a good point as a little bit of quick thing here. Jason said, ironically, these are the same people probably that were fighting over wearing masks the whole entire time during COVID. So now they really love these masks. Well, I don't know.
Who are like, I have a respiratory illness. I cannot wear this. I remember, so I would always walk to work, and I had to walk past the Capitol building. And back in, it must have been 2022, there was an anti-mask protest going on. And this one old, like 40-year-old man came up to me and went, "Unmuzzle yourself, brother."
Oh,
and it's like, I'm sure he was in that lineup, the other day. But, it's just the irony of, the master race of 5'8" Oompa Loompas. And this is coming from a certified short king. I'm telling you, these are not the cream of the crop of the white race. Let me put it like that.
Yeah. They definitely had a wardrobe challenge going on there. They were in between sort of like discount level stormtroopers and like these ill-fitting suits that you might get if you worked for like some really bad company that made you wear a horrible uniform. Like, let's say a movie theater. So like, I don't know. I mean, they didn't really instill fear with their uniform.
I don't remember Michelangelo's peak human male form having back rolls and a bald head, but
yeah. Well,
we know what's funny about that too. Wouldn't the Fuhrer be disappointed? Because I've often heard people say, and it's typically the same people who would defend Nazis on social media. They'll say, well, the SS, they had great uniforms. You got to say that,
Oh,
they had great looking uniforms.
Yep.
I know Kanye was very obsessed with them. I remember.
Kanye, yes.
He was loving those uniforms.
Well, we don't know. Kanye could have been there. Like, has fallen a little bit from fame.
Well, we wouldn't know with the masks going on.
For all we know.
Jenny said in the chat room they look like a dance troupe.
Yeah.
But
if they could dance, I mean, Andrew pointed out that they had zero rhythm.
Yeah, I mean,
right, Andrew? Remember you?
Sarah Beth is in there too. She says,
I know they needed a baton twirler at the front to like get them in tune,
Right. Yeah. Oh boy.
Lord of the Dance, they weren't. Lord of the Dance, they weren't.
Well, when they did their, the Nazi salute and everything, were they at least in some sort of formation there, or did they manage to pull that off? Or
yeah, they were still in sort of the line formation when they first did that, but a lot of them were off key, you could say. A lot of them were delayed. Same thing with their drill movements and their military-esque drill movements that they wanted to do.
Right.
I mean, when they did their little right face to start marching, one of them turned the complete opposite direction.
Jenny told me that. Yeah, she told me about that. Yeah,
I've seen better out of kids when I was in Civil Air Patrol doing drill movements.
Yeah,
I mean,
someone call Abby Lee Miller.
Yeah, like I think if you're gonna go out there, as Nazis, to instill fear and a sense of, hey, we're all about order and all this stuff, you'd think you would get the drill movements and the hand movements right before you go out in public and do that.
Right.
Yeah. like the Nazi version of Blue Man Group, in my opinion. I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking. You know, like.
Well, you know,
They probably
this was
don't like the
really,
blue
an
people very much.
older
But
demographic of
no blue
Nazis.
people.
This wasn't like your like young, like black-pilled, like internet Nazis. But I
Yeah.
will say there was that kind of common feeling of like patheticness
yeah,
that like
Yes,
was
very
around
much
there. Like
so.
it's just very lame. It's giving like your dad and his like band that he plays with, like with his other like 45-year-old band members, and there's like 3 people at the show. Like there's just this very like, I don't know, this like desperation in the air.
Well, I mean,
that
like
is
the
very
men.
palpable.
You
Which
mean like the guys
it's
that
an
have like.
interesting contrast with what happened later by the co-op when they started beating that guy. You know, it's just this
Yeah.
very interesting mix of like pathetic, desperate men, but that who like they're like there's like kind of insecurity mixed with this like delusion of being the master race and like this intense violence that they want to commit and are willing to commit. Like
yeah.
it's just a very odd combination.
That's what I always say too. It is pathetic because I always say it's such a huge waste of time, because even if you decide to commit yourself to this, you know, because all the people that you hate, you hate them so much that you're willing to commit your life to and put all this energy into hating these people. Someday you're going to die, and when you're dead and gone, all the people you hate are still going to be here. There's still going to be black and brown people. There's still going to be gay and trans people. There's still going to be Jewish people. There's still going to be Muslims. There's still going to be everybody. You know what I mean? Like you can spend your whole life actually putting so much energy into your hate that you're willing to show up at events and be somewhat sort of choreographed and whatnot and organized. But you at the end of your life, you won't have actually accomplished anything. All these people are still going to be here.
Well, what I think is interesting is it is almost like a religious thing for them, because they're they don't plan to like enact like the white ethno state like now. There's more of it's more of this like existential fear that like not they, but like their children or their country like 100 or 200 or 300 years down the line will be like 49% white, and
that's a
that's
good
the
point.
existential fear. So
Really?
This,
So
like this like not reincarnation, but their continuation of their race through perpetuity, right? So there's almost this weird, like, you know, like greater than life thing going on in their
mind. So they also lack drive. They don't even have desire to make their movement happen in the now. They're waiting for.
Well, they want to,
400 years down the road.
Not going to happen. It's more.
Well, we know that
driven by this fear of like that, like their race will die out, and that will be like almost their own death.
I mean, that's what a lot of these groups are, you know, built upon, is that isolation factor of, you know, we're under attack by these evil forces, and, you know, we're the good guys, we're the superhuman, you know, superior white bros who are, you know, and it's just, again, they play on that, you know, you have a lot, especially now, of these, you know, lonely, you know, the male lonely epidemic that people believe and stuff like that, and that plays into plays a lot into it, the incel culture bringing in, and that's kind of where the pipeline starts, is the incel culture, and then the rabbit hole ends up, you know, what we saw at the Capitol building, and that's what those groups play upon, and that's what they use in their propaganda is, we're under attack, we are protecting ourselves.
Right.
And that's what
we're under attack.
Like the good guy.
Yeah, we're under attack. So let's all pile in a U-Haul and drive across. I mean, you know, if this is their version of a tank, you know, I don't even know. Let me tell you, these guys, they were something else. I mean, I don't know. I just to me, my shit wouldn't be I'm going to conquer the world in a U-Haul. Like this is their idea of a supreme race.
U-Haul too. Like I don't want a really big U-Haul. Like. Yeah, like I've seen 2 lesbians rent out bigger U-Hauls. This was like tiny.
I
honestly don't know how they all fit in it. Like there was 20 of them, and this U-Haul was like probably like barely bigger than like a Ford F-150. Like it was honestly incredible. It was like a clown car.
Not to mention the breathing, all that, and plus, Andrew, I think as you pointed out when we were talking, for such a homophobic group of people, why did they want to put themselves in a completely box, all sweating to death? You know, that sounds like some pretty hardcore S&M to me. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I think
maybe
they
this
were
was a fetish
standing.
thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
wonder
when they
how it
were
works when they're
marching
driving and they're
away,
all standing.
linking arms together, and I'm like, wow, that's
Right?
some brotherly love. I mean,
Right.
Well,
we're
there's
really
Licking some boots.
really close
Lick
together
those
here.
boots.
there's no shortage of research that has concluded that people who are excessively homophobic are for a reason.
Mm.
You know, they're trying to work out something.
Although for the record, I think I can speak on behalf of all of us. We don't want them
Mhm.
a freaking closet or their U-Haul. Really, kind of going.
Where are they supposed to go? Because I'm straight. I don't want them in my camp either.
I know in the U-Haul and in a
I guess they just have to be
I
incest.
know. I hear El Salvador will take them probably.
right, right. Venezuela, maybe.
Oh, good Lord.
Well, to give the
We thought it
viewer-
might be kind of fun to capture them and then like drive them to Lawrence and flatten all the tires and paint a swastika with an arrow that says Nazis in here,
Yeah.
and then just see how long they lasted.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like a little rat experiment.
Right.
to give the viewers a bit of a rundown on this group, they're called the Blood
Yeah, that's
Oak.
true. We should
Oh,
get
yeah,
serious
that's
There's a
good,
here.
yeah.
specific
Yeah,
like
yeah.
tribe.
a blood tribe. Sorry,
Yeah.
their particular brand of Nazism is very like Nordic inspired, which is again combined with the fact these are all probably like 5'8" Irish people. Very interesting.
Yeah, so
But
that is
they
the
initially
other
tried
thing.
starting a
Yeah.
compound in northern Maine, and then I think that flopped. So then they
It
have
did.
moved on to New Hampshire, likely because Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine are like the whitest states in the country. I think that's why they're coming here, because it's the most like reasonable, quote unquote, to make
Yeah.
all white.
Well, I also feel like it's part of their whole, like, they probably have volunteered themselves along with the Proud Boys and all this stuff as sort of help Trump's movement and the MAGA movement in their, like, indirectly in this, like, they're going to be the foot soldiers. And so, they know that the MAGA people are not very happy with New England. And so, why not just try this whole invasion? Although they failed in Maine, they failed in Massachusetts. You're right. I mean, now it's New Hampshire. Next, it will be Rhode Island, and eventually it will be the ocean.
Yeah, and to go to what Jason was saying, even the actual Nazis from World War II drove a lot of stuff from Norse mythology, and especially this group too. Did you guys know that this group actually believes that Hitler is like a descendant of Odin?
Interesting.
I'm so serious when I say it. Yes, they truly believe that. Then they believe that the white people are like the master race chosen by like Odin, and that they need to Earth is their homeland and they need to retake it from the dangerous minorities and all this other stuff. So it is very like interesting that they take all of these other things again. Even the actual like World War II Nazis did this, where they took a lot of things from other cultures and ideologies and mixed it into their own.
The other interesting thing is there is some actual basis and truth to Indiana Jones and the Lost Ark, because Hitler did try to find the Lost Ark because he believed it had these spiritual powers. So on one hand, he's like, I hate the Jew, Christians, whatever. But then he's trying to find all of their icons and artifacts because he hated them so much he wanted to make them all his own. Yeah. So like, he was loop anyway, but they were into that stuff. Like I think any sort of scepter of power or totem of power, they wanted.
I mean, they had an actual government like agency dedicated to going to archaeological sites to prove that this master super race existed, and all they found was mud huts.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show that, again, that propaganda aspect of, we need to like, because again, it's like, it's so unbelievable to people like us, you know what I mean? But again, if you're your average Joe who just lives in the middle of the woods, who's like, doesn't like going to the city, and then you hear all this stuff about how, you're under attack, you have to protect your family, your kids, and all this stuff, like they're going to be a little more tuned to go, hey, maybe these guys are right. So at the same time we're talking about how pathetic these people are, at the same time it's still a very real threat, because there are other
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. There are plenty of people who aren't like us, who are easily manipulated by those teachings.
Yes.
And again, that's why they're trying to get rid of education.
Oh yeah,
Right
absolutely.
there. I mean, that is why they're trying to get rid of it.
So we were actually having a really interesting conversation last night, me and Andrew, about sort of like isolation in rural communities and how like throughout America, there's this sort of constant like people almost salivate at the idea of crime happening to them. Like you have these like people who live in like these like rural cabins like fantasizing about how they're going to get like a home invasion and they're going to pull out their like
Right.
rifle and shoot the home invader,
Mhm.
or like
Oh,
constantly like carrying wherever they go, like
Mhm.
right. And I think people have the right to carry. I think it's, if that's something you want to do, like again we were talking kind of about gun rights and stuff, I think that's
Yeah.
fine. But I think that there are a lot of people who like live under this constant fear of crime that isn't happening to them or
Oh,
like
yeah.
around
right.
them,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like marinate themselves in it to live in this kind of
You know,
perpetual, like almost like The Last of Us, like they're like going to like urban
yes.
areas to like scavenge for food and then going back to their prepper hut.
Mhm.
What I find very
Very antisocial.
interesting, one of the things I've always found very interesting, the fact that they think that civilized society wants to invade them and take over their society, when in fact we're actually quite happy with them remaining very much in solidarity and just kind of living on their own
Yeah.
and not really interacting with them. I'm fine with the redneck trolls staying redneck trolls in their caves. I mean, I it's fine with me.
Yeah.
I'm not about to invade them. I really,
I mean,
I just wish they wouldn't invade my places.
I personally don't have any friends named Billy Joe Jim Bob, and I'm okay with it.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't
I'm
either.
okay with it.
Yeah.
Well,
And I hate
I do think
NASCAR.
it's sad though. I think it's sort of like and I think the reason we don't see it as much in New England is because we still have like built town like community centers. Well, in
Yeah.
a lot of rural America, it's like literally just like houses, but like there's no actual real
Yeah.
community
Yeah.
there. So
Right.
people are distrustful of their neighbors. They're
Right.
constantly fearing, and then they like marinate themselves in this true crime, like whatever crap. And it's like the people who are actually at the most danger, which would be like your people living in urban areas or like
Yeah.
minorities, are actually the least affected by this like crime paranoia. It's
Right.
mostly
Right.
like conservative rural men who live in towns of like 7 people. Like like where is this fear coming from? It's almost like
Right.
nothing's happening, so you're super sensitive to like the idea of anything happening.
Well,
And
there's
I think
also
that's
there's
Right.
where
also
some of
this
Nazism comes from. It's like this constant
yeah.
fear that they live under.
Well, there's also this
Well, it's
constant
all
narrative too that comes from the right that everything is so violent. And I mean,
Mhm.
if you turned on Fox News any given day during the Biden administration, you would think that it wasn't safe to go outside because you were going to be raped, mugged, and murdered trying to buy bread at the grocery store, assuming you could even get to the grocery store
Oh
through
my
the
God.
rivers of blood flowing through the
Well,
streets.
I hear whispers. I hear Portland is still on fire to this day.
Oh, that's terrible. I'm
I
sorry
mean,
to
there's
hear
a
that.
lot of happening, but they're caused by the right not believing in global warming. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, cities are not, well, they potentially could be on fire eventually. Los Angeles certainly caught on
Oh,
fire.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I a little bit of like transference. It's like you're the ones causing the fires. Like I don't,
Yeah.
I don't know. Just
Yeah, and
just
again,
my little
like
side.
that is the biggest, if not the only tool that groups like this have, is fear. That's
Yes.
it. They're
Right.
they're there to instill fear for 2 reasons. A is to scare the people that they are targeting, and B is to scare, white people into thinking that they're being attacked. And again, if you
They're
instill
also,
that
yeah,
fear, obviously people are going to be like, "Oh, I need to protect myself. I need to protect my home, my family." Again, that goes back to what Jason was saying: is you have a lot of these isolated communities that think they're under threat constantly, and then someone comes in and goes, "Hey, we're going to band together. I'm going to help you through this, but at the same
right.
time, we also have to, get rid of minorities." So it's like
Yeah, I mean,
it's
right.
insane.
It's also a bunch of losers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Frankly, it's a bunch
Yeah.
of losers. I mean, so and they think that they are judged and seen as losers unless then they're right, they are. And so yeah, I mean, what can I say?
That's why I also
Yeah,
think it's a bit
again,
of a mistake on the Nazis' end to come to New England because, like, sure, we're very white, but like, we're very
We're
different
also
type of white
hyper
people than you
educated.
would
Yeah.
find in like, Idaho or wherever. There are
Yeah,
places that'd be much more friendly to them
sure.
than here.
Right.
Yeah, their recruitment wasn't so good. Didn't work so well.
Right.
Yeah, actually, and to that point, why don't you guys? I'd love to hear a little bit more about, you know, that the moments that you saw and what you saw, you know, standing there on the streets.
Yeah, I mean, I like again, I never thought I would ever. It's even still crazy to me now that like the where I was born and raised. Again, I saw literal Nazis like face to face. Again, that's like never something in my life that I thought I would see. But then like I started actually like listening to what the guy was saying with the megaphone. He's talking about how we need to release the shackles off the white man and we need to make minorities disappear. And it's just it was insane to me, again, like looking at that, I'm like, not only A, is he saying these things, but like B, he's out in public saying these things.
Yeah.
And again, it's like, I know people, again, I saw a lot of this stuff online too. Again, people, bring up free speech and stuff like that. Again, like I'm totally for free speech. But again, when you're out there, showing off an ideology that has buried millions of people and to this day harms countless other people to this day in 2025,
right,
and you're out there saying that we need to make certain people disappear in order to be safe and stuff like that, like I'm sorry, but like you should not be able to do that. Like,
yeah, no, I mean, like cultures that have a history of this and have chosen to make this kind of language illegal. I mean, that's what Germany did. Germany felt like it was necessary. At some point, it's something we've been about doing. It's certainly been discussed and been bounced around. I mean, if you even look at like the ACLU now, they've changed they used to protect all freedom of speech. And now if it is hate, derived, or if it's based in hate, and if it's meant to instill hate or instill violence, then they no longer protect those speakers.
Yeah.
And, I think it became necessary to make that pivot.
The other thing too, I said this over the weekend too about the whole free speech argument. So the Nazi defenders on social media, because Jenny experienced this, she posted about it, and the Nazi defenders will always get on there and stick up for the I call them Nazi defenders. They'll stick up for the free speech of the people who showed up. And technically, I think they're right. And I do think we have to be while the First Amendment is not absolute, I do think we have to be careful about banning certain types of speech, although the First Amendment does, law prohibits speech that incites violence and so forth. But the thing that I notice about the Nazi defenders is they will immediately defend the First Amendment rights of the Nazis while attacking, in this case, attacking Jenny, who posted about it, while attacking her for saying, hey, there's Nazis here. And it's like, okay, so these people are very passionate about defending the First Amendment rights of the Nazis, but they don't seem to be at all interested in defending the First Amendment rights of the person who's criticizing the Nazis. You know what I mean? It's very weird.
Yeah, it's very challenging. Well, plus they want the free speech to take away other people's free speech.
Exactly.
I mean, literally, the belief of Nazis
that's what it
is let us say what we want so we can take away everybody else's rights.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, like you should let me say whatever I want, but then once my ideas get popular, I'm gonna take away what you can say.
Yep.
But I want to like Q and Andrew, because you actually had some really interesting like responses to your photos online about like how people are reacting.
Yeah,
I'd like to hear about that.
So this is the other thing when it comes to, as a photographer, it is one of the most important things that we have is the undeniable proof of photographic evidence. Because I did see a lot of stuff online, like somebody commented, they were like photos or it wasn't real. People started flooding him with my photos. And then he proceeds to go, those aren't real.
Of course.
Buddy, I was standing there in person, seeing it with my own eyes, photographing. Like, what are we talking about? And then he loves to bring up the photo of the Epstein banner, where he's like, Trump loves Epstein. He goes, oh, see, they're not anti-Trump. So I'm like, okay, the photos are fake until it benefits whatever point you're trying to make.
Of course.
And even then, like whatever you just said, it doesn't matter if they're anti-Trump or not, dude. They're not.
I don't think they were.
They're not.
Either way,
it doesn't matter if they are or not.
Right.
They're not.
Right.
But what's interesting there, though, is that I think initially he was like, he assumed that the Nazis were pro-Trump. Like he made the connection.
Right.
And then he
Right.
was like,
of course. Yeah.
oh, well, see, these are actually not pro-Trump Nazis. So hot liberal. So
And that's the thing,
like,
is,
but
I
it was
think
the
a
way
lot
he
of
assumed
people,
they were. And
yeah, I
I
Right.
feel like,
think's
of course.
interesting about the Epstein thing is, you know, a lot of these, like I said, were like more probably, my guess would be Gen X, maybe like older millennial Nazis. But I think the more insidious thing is the larger base of like young far right people who exist now. There's a lot of people who have gone down these far right pipelines, and they might not self ID as Nazis. And just like, you know, we've seen much with much of the online left, they are also very complacent.
Mhm.
But they are there, and they can promote, you know, your like Nick Fuenteses, or even like your Candace Owens, you know, people who are actually like true anti-Semites, you know, who will be like, well, I liked Trump before he was, you know, taken over by the Jewish plot, or, you know, whatever crazy things they
Right.
believe. And like that is like an
I
actual, like,
mean,
probably the bigger problem.
and you also have these people within the MAGA movement, like especially if you're talking about, you know, the MAGA royalty, if you will. They don't care. Like they're basically going to use whoever is going to cause the disruption and deflection from the real agenda, whether that be Nazis or you know, white power or whatever. They could care less. Those people are being used as well. But that is right out of the fast playbook, right? I mean, you get the angry mob, you know, the dolts who don't have they're just angry, but you know, want to get out there and beat people to death with clubs. You know, Hitler, like up until it was really established, he only sent the SS out in the really like Gestapo and those people for like the top, you know, leadership or whatever. He didn't. They were not the foot soldiers. So in these movements, you send out the mad mob, and you know, and they just kind of create the chaos, and then you send in your specialists, and they go in and kind of you know, do more of laser pointed cleansing, if you will.
yeah, I
Well,
mean,
yeah.
like seeing all the, you know, again, just all the discourse online where it, instead of people focusing on the main threat and the actual issue of the Nazis, people were fighting amongst themselves like it was a Democrat and a Republican issue. It's not. It's an American and a Nazi issue. Again,
Right.
this is what happens. Again, this is why, you know, what I do is so important. Again, like
Right.
photographing this, because again, it's one thing to hear about an event like this. But once you see it, even if it is just an image, you get that deeper level of understanding of,
Sure.
oh, there's Nazis. And
And
again, it's
yeah.
you show as you know what's actually happening. That's why I take as many photos as I possibly can, because I want to get
Right.
everything, because things
Yeah.
like this will happen where people are like, oh, it's the Democrats or it's Antifa. It's like, dude, no, like again, this isn't Republican Democrat. This is American versus Nazi.
And notice if they were like actually tuned in, they would realize that. I mean, look at Kelly Ayotte, the leadership, even the extreme MAGA leadership. I will tell you publicly, will always throw them under, because they literally just want them to go in, cause chaos, hurt people that they know if they hurt them directly, it will hurt their brand, because they have to at least be able to like plausible deniability. They're able to argue, we don't support violence. We would never look, we're not a violent movement as far as like the MAGA leadership. And then, I mean, they'll let them fall in their own sphere. They're really just using them. Everybody, you know, they're not going to be supported by the MAGA, you know, leadership.
One of the other interesting like pieces of discourse that was going on around the photos was, I know people were almost attacking you, Andrew, for like quote unquote like platforming the Nazis by taking photos. And you know, that really reflects a lot of like the online debates we've seen over the past couple like years. I even remember back during Trump 1, when all of these schools, before they became, you know, not before, when they were back on their like free speech warrior thing, and they were letting your Nick Fuenteses and all of these like white nationalists speak in the name of free speech. Now, of course, they're also concerned about anti-Semitism when it comes to war. But you know, that was a big discussion of like platforming. And I think in this case, it's definitely more like documenting, but there is sort of even questions I know within 5051 of like, well, how much do we talk about this? Like, we don't want to give them free press, quote unquote, but also like it needs to be addressed. And there's almost this constant worry of like, well, if we do this, are they winning or losing? And I don't think we really know, and I don't think they know either, because they've also kind of like partially covered it up, but also partially leaned into it.
I mean, so the thing is, they're going to either way,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if you guys agree with this, but I think, you know, hiding them and pretending they don't exist, or thinking that we're downplaying them.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we tried, honestly. Like during the Obama era, I feel like, I mean, do we suddenly think that during Obama, all of these alt-right groups and the Proud Boys and all this didn't exist? And suddenly Trump became president, and now they're suddenly growing in special fields where they grow racists. I mean, they were always there. So us pretending they weren't there, A, doesn't protect us, and B, I don't really think, you know, I think it's important we talk about this stuff because, you know, putting our heads in the sand is not the answer.
Well, it also plays into the conservative narrative, because when we during the first Trump administration, when we first started seeing, like when Charlottesville happened, for example, you know, I had a conservative friend of mine say to me at the time, you know, oh no, Matt, just ignore them, just ignore the people with the torches, just ignore them and they'll go away. They just want attention. If you don't pay any, and by the way, for the record, the person who said this to me, I think he sincerely believed this. But I remember telling him, dude, you're wrong, because we live in an era now where, because of social media, the greatest recruitment tool that these groups could ever want, they have. And this isn't something that always existed. So that's why. So, for example, pre-social media, I don't think Charlottesville would have even happened, because it would have been much more difficult to coordinate something like that.
Right.
But so I told my friend, and he's since passed away, but I remember at the time telling him, I'm like, dude, you're being naive if you believe that. This is only going to grow.
Right. And I think the biggest concern for me, almost like this, if we're talking about like people, especially the under 8 group that they're infiltrating, is it's basically child abuse or neglect. And so I think what's most important is that people like us get out there and talk about this, so that these, number one, I mean, I jokingly say, you know, who cares or whatever, but obviously if we can also, you know, get out there and show people that this is not okay, this is not acceptable, this is not what most society wants you to act like, but P.S., you have a place, like, and then, so on the same token, we also broadcast, you know, we're feeding the rural areas, and we're helping try to build these places up, and we're trying to build infrastructure, and we're doing, and if we do those two things simultaneously, I think ultimately that's how we really fight these people. Because basically we replace, you know, how can they call us the enemy? Ultimately feeding them. I mean, it will event, and that's what they're afraid of too. They're afraid that we're going to steal children. And in fact, in some respects, we are going to not steal them, but we program them so these poor kids have a chance to actually like be human again. Because they're, you know, I can't even imagine. They turn them into little, and then they're trapped. Like, there's got to be a point where it's almost probably very difficult to flip it around.
Well, they think we're going to steal all of their children and make them trans.
No, but we are going to make them not Nazis.
Right. Correct.
But, you know, it is really sad. Like, I grew up in like a very rural area. I know me and Todd have driven through it before.
It's lovely,
and it's very depressing. Like, you know, like I remember even like I couldn't even like go for a fucking walk because I lived on the side of essentially a highway. It is like your world is just so small, and I live like not far out from Concord. So, you know, it's just like I don't know. I part of me, you know, I love to laugh at like the ridiculousness of the Nazis and this far right whatever, but some of it is genuinely sad. Like these people's lives are so small.
Oh, for sure.
And so like narrow that like the idea of like 2 men or like, but like these are like radical concepts, and that's why you see so often like the archetype of, oh, I grew up in a rural town and I don't know, I didn't really like think about stuff too much, and then I moved to a city and I like my world expanded and I saw all this stuff, and then I moved left, right? And that's sort of what the internet's been for a lot of young people. That's why I think why you see young people be so much more likely to be left-leaning than right-leaning is because it just it opens you up to so many more things through the internet. You can like meet Black people, even if you're not like meeting them, but like you can have like an interpersonal or not interpersonal, but a one-sided relationship with, you know, these
it humanizes them
content creators.
too.
And you get to just see the lives of so many different people all at once.
There's two sides to that coin though, right? Because it's also with the internet, with, you know, the you know, they call it the Rogan sphere, for example, you know, all the alt-right podcasts that suck people in, that have actually sucked in a lot of young white males. You know, so there are two sides to that coin. I think your broader point though, Jason, I do agree with you, but I do think there is another side to that coin, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I also, these men that are afraid, well, really their world is dying as far as this like celebration of being toxically masculine, and, you know, everybody is below you as a, you know, a macho, straight, cisgender male, white, especially a white male. You know, the whole machismo thing is no longer in vogue, and they're hoping that by, I think, secluding their children in these like rural areas that are, you know, rated with anything other than right-wing media, that they'll be able to preserve this way of life, because I think they're afraid. And also, you got to think of it this way. To think about, I don't know what you guys think, but if you spend your whole life hating everyone, it probably wouldn't be that big of a jump to think maybe people hate me as much as I hate them, and if I let them gain power, maybe they'll want me up on burning crosses and things out. Like, it's incomprehensible to them to think that when we gain power, we're not going to go kill them and club them in the street. That's what they think. That's what they know.
Right. I think you're right, Todd. I think that is part of how they think.
So ironically, they're afraid of us. I mean, they call us sissies and pinko communists and whatever, but what they're really afraid of, plus they know in many cases, I'm sure they feel inferior intellectually. So like, shit, I mean, we don't necessarily agree with these people, but clearly they're doing a good job doing something, controlling the narrative and that sort of thing. So they are dangerous. I'm sure they see us as dangerous.
That's the thing with fascism, and is like, this is very well documented. There's always a sort of contradiction between the enemy is both extraordinarily weak, but also all encompassing and super powerful. You know, my favorite thing I always think of when this comes up is that when the Japanese were reading Mein Kampf, they were like, oh wow, the Jews are so powerful, we need to like recruit the Jews to help us. And they like wanted to make a Jewish quarter of Tokyo, because they were like, well, if the Jews are like the Germans have said, that then we must capture the Jews to use their powers. You know, like so it's sort of this ridiculous thing where like both like Jewish people are like these like hermits, and like they're weak and they're like lesser race, but they're also like all powerful and all consuming. Like gay people are both like weak sissies, but also they have the power to like turn all of your kids gay, like we're these like homoerotic vampires like roaming the country, turning people.
I mean, look at the whole movement of the church back in the day, and they would like villainize women who were strong and powerful. And so on one hand, they're calling them witches, and they can like take over your souls and all this stuff, and they're women, so they're inferior to these men. It's like, it's all there's a lot of like contradictions there.
That dichotomy comes easy to them though, and with that ideology, I mean, look at during 8 years of Obama, you know, Republicans would talk about Obama like he was this weak, feckless, completely inefficient, incompetent leader who was single-handedly going to destroy America and make himself king forever because he's so powerful and dangerous, but also very weak and just a completely incompetent. You know what I mean? Like they just
he's doing nothing, but he's also ruining everything at the same time.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Again, meanwhile, they put in the education factor. You know what I mean? Again, it's like if you're uneducated, you're going to believe both simultaneously that groups or a person can be weak while simultaneously being this superpower that controls everything. And again, that's why these people go so hard with the propaganda, because in order to believe something like that, you have to constantly be like, here's what's going on. This is what's happening. Well, and it's like you said, you know, earlier, Matt, like people waste their lives doing this.
Oh yeah.
Like you you really think about it. We only get to do this once, right? And these people are going to waste it sitting there doing things like this, hating on people they've never met in their life, all because some bald white dude came up to them and was like, "You want to know why your life sucks? Minorities, dude." Like, it's just.
Yes. If you look at the vast majority of these people, I mean, I thought the Proud Boys were degenerates, but like these people were like the degenerates of the degenerates. I mean, this guy like climbed out of a swamp in Florida and then obviously didn't do his research and tried to go attacking one of the liberal towns in New Hampshire. I mean, who does that?
And don't forget, there's that like tattoo artist who hates black people, but he tattooed like 90% of his face black. So like, don't ask me what's up with that one.
Yeah.
Plus, he kind of gave me like a vibe almost, like he literally looked like some BDSM gimp, like who was like this Nazi, like
he was very like
I don't know. The whole thing was just
Mr.
bizarre.
Him. Is that the thing I'm thinking of?
Yeah, again, it's like Jason, like you were saying earlier. It's like, you know, behold the superior white race, and it's some scrawny dude with yellow messed up.
It looked like a Dungeons and Dragons club. Like
face.
It genuinely looked like a Dungeons and Dragons club.
Well, no, I think they looked healthy. They look less healthy than Dungeons.
I mean, like again, we can say we can't wrap our head around, you know, being.
They look like West Virginia refugees.
Yeah, like it's like how, like genuinely, how can you sit there and look at yourself in the mirror and think, yeah, I'm the superior master race that controls the entire. Like, dude, what?
I do have that constant contradiction of like being deeply insecure, but also like super self-involved.
Here's an interesting thing, though. Is it our fault because we are like? I mean, I don't really think that this is the case, but it is something interesting to think, like, because let's face it, like, we don't consider these people equal. We do consider. So is that a bad attack? Like, are we almost feeding into it by saying, like, you're right, you are stupid, we don't like you? Like, I don't know. What do you think?
I personally don't care. I don't think we should suffer fools.
Well, I don't think
I have no problem saying that's stupid.
Yeah, I don't care either. I just thought I'd throw it out. I wanted to sound sympathetic.
I'd like to, so we are 47 minutes in, and we have not yet talked about the guy who got his face.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Nazis.
Oh yeah,
right. Which is what does make this at the end of the day still a problem, because we're ignorant, stupid, whatever it is they are. I think, Jason, you and I talked about this a little bit the day of. Look, these people clearly, because they are pathetic, they don't give any fucks. So they have nothing.
They have nothing to lose.
Yeah, they have nothing to lose, and
that's one of the most dangerous enemies is people that have so to lose.
Yeah,
and not just that, but they do feel protected because so the way they usually go about this is that they try to rile people up to get them to attack first, and then they can say, well, it's self-defense. And especially in New Hampshire, where like you can basically shoot someone in self-defense in this state. And that was another thing we were talking about, me and Andrew.
Yeah.
We
have standards.
So it makes it very hard to like prosecute them.
Although I think this
could have known but it seems like we're unclear right now whether who did what first with this guy who got punched.
Well, but honesty, I don't think whether we think they did the best job or didn't do the best job. I don't really feel like, especially in a open carry state, you could not have the police show up, because this literally probably would have ended. Possibly, I don't know if the Nazis had guns. I wouldn't be surprised if they did. But then I also would not have been surprised if we would have had a shootout down.
Oh yeah,
because some of these people were so enraged.
Well, I don't know if any of the Nazis were packing, which is interesting.
But some of the liberals were.
Right.
So we would have still had.
It wasn't even just liberals though. Like you said, there were some guys who did not look like liberals who were pretty.
Yeah. How about that guy? And so this guy, I kid you not, Matt. He looked like I was expecting to see "Make America Great Again" sticker on the back of his car. This guy that was like, you know, hardcore, all-American, you know, dude, parked his huge Effie right in that there's like a little middle lane that's like, I guess, a walkway. You know what I'm talking about? In Concord?
Yeah. I know exactly
it's like
what you mean.
A stone path.
Downtown,
he set his car in the stone path and was yelling with his veins popping out at these. I can only imagine if the police weren't there. I'm sure the guy had a gun.
Yeah.
So I can imagine what he would have done.
Well, I mean, again, this goes back to my point of this isn't a Democrat and Republican issue. It's
an
American versus a Nazi issue. Again, Republican and Democrats, one thing, but we're talking about Nazis.
Right.
Yeah.
Very
You
few
should
people
not like Nazis
like
regardless of your party.
Right.
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 I mean,
Right.
Exactly.
not only is it un-American, it's just unhuman what these
Yeah.
people believe.
Yeah.
Well, they're
It's as
to
simple as
annihilate
that.
everybody else but them. Like any goal that has any group of people that says, look, I'm gonna, you people that should be let to live completely as me, and the vast majority of them we're going to exterminate. Like
Well, that's the other thing is
that's pretty hard to get many people.
just because you are white does not mean you are safe. If you do not think
Oh,
like them
yeah,
and act
absolutely
like
not.
them, they don't care.
Right.
And again,
Exactly.
just because you feel like you might not be affected, someone else in your life or someone, just even anyone in your community, again, one of the biggest reasons why I do what I do is because of my niece. By the way, love you, Kaivana.
Right.
But she's mixed, and I do not want her to grow up in a world where she has the possibility of being killed because of the color of her skin.
Of
Right.
course not. Right.
Absolutely not. So when
No.
people say it's like, oh, well, I'm white, they don't, you know what I mean? It's like, dude, no. Again, you got to think about just because you're white, you're not safe. You got to think about other people in your life. And not only that, just think about other human beings. Like, I feel like nowadays, just having basic empathy for people that you don't know has
Right.
gone just down. And it sucks. And that's the other thing of why, like, again, education
although
of like being like, hey, like,
right.
just because you don't know this person or they're on the other side of the world or what have you, like, they're still a fellow human being.
Right.
Yeah.
Although I love, yeah, not to interrupt, but although I love the response, I mean, I actually like the fact that these dudes that were like basically who I would probably consider New Hampshire rednecks were as enraged as we
That's
are.
good to see,
So-
isn't it? That's
That's
reassuring.
important.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
what
that's
we
good
need
to
right
see.
now is a strong sense of community and solidarity, because that's how we fight back against things like this. 'Cause
Agreed.
again,
Right.
the only tool that they have to their benefit is fear. And as long as we do not let
And
ourselves
division.
be afraid, we can win. We can stop stuff
And
like
that
that
is
from
the
happening.
Yeah.
and that
Plain and
does bring
simple.
me to the point when you were talking about that guy. What do you guys think about? I mean, I have my feel on this, but I'll let you guys say it first. What do you think about that? The kid that was beaten and his lack of desire, or perhaps maybe his intimidation to not press charges.
Is this in the video, by the way? Because I have that video.
Yes.
Yeah,
I can
it
I
is.
can
It
I
is.
can play this while we talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I think because it starts sort of mid-action, that video. Currently, it's unclear as to like exactly what happened before and who started. That's one of the things that's being looked at now, because I know he is worried about maybe even if like they were to sue or counter sue, and like I think it's a whole mess, because again, it seems like he had come out of the store, come up to them, and then we're unsure who threw the first punch, because the video
But in this case,
yeah. So
they're Nazis. So
yeah,
right. I mean, what he did in my book is fine, but in terms of the law.
No. I'm saying in the terms of public opinion, I think even if he had hit them first, in a jury, if it went to a jury trial,
I don't care.
Yeah,
They
wouldn't care.
He could have whatever.
Yeah. So
right.
My thing with that, and again, like me and Jason were kind of discussing this last night, is when it comes to self-defense, they also take in factors like, use of force when it comes to defending yourself.
Right.
So again, let's say hypothetically this guy did strike them first. The fact that they proceeded to pepper spray him and then 6 other people attacked him, that's crossing the line, like completely jumping over the line of reasonable use of force against defending yourself.
Right.
Plain and
plus,
simple.
Plus one of them blocked it so someone else could come to his rescue. And for all they know, even going to come and like join the violence. Maybe they were just going to pull him out of the violence. So, to me, I feel like even if he did first, a self-defense argument on their part is pretty weak.
I mean, you also have to look at this factor.
Premeditation, because they all have these like body cam like cameras going on.
That's true too.
And they've done this before. Like we know that they're trying to like
they're trying to
get a violent clip.
Yep.
So
I'm going to piggyback off what Jason just said. Is this group has a documented history of provoking people to attack them so they can harm them. It is a well-documented thing that this group does. And again, you also have to factor that in of like, they're not defending themselves. They wanted this to happen so they could hurt somebody.
So there's also an argument that this is because a lot of them don't work, and especially their leaders, this is their career, if you call it that. So a lot of them actually live on the lawsuit. So if they were to, like, you know, beat people up, if this had been, God forbid, Alabama or something horrible like that, you know, maybe the jury would side with them. I mean, we'd like to think no, but there probably are parts of the U.S. that they might have a chance.
I have a question because I was not at the event. So where were the cops? Because something that I heard, and Jenny had said this, and I've heard this from others, is that, and I know, Jason, you've had positive experiences with the Concord police, but so I just want to, you know, we want to provide that balance, of course. But in this case, it sounds to me, and what I've heard people say is it seemed like the police were more interested in protecting the Nazis than they were the people who were there protesting, and that, you know, after this happens, the blood tribe, whatever, they just get to jump in their U-Haul and drive off, and, you know, the police didn't do anything, and so I'm wondering, I'd like to get the perspective from the three of you on that. Again, as someone who wasn't there.
Yeah, you guys go first. I've heard a few stories.
So yeah, speaking on the background, I know, like, through 5051, we've had a pretty positive experience with them, just in terms of, like, them helping us out when we've had, like, counter protesters or people who are getting, like, riled up and maybe a little, like, potentially violent, or people, like, there were these kids on bikes who were, like, blocking the road repeatedly, and the police came and helped us out there. So they've actually been pretty good in that terms.
That's good.
For this, so the FBI was aware this was happening. The FBI actually notified the police, but then the police didn't notify us, which was a little frustrating, just because, like, obviously we're holding this large event with hundreds of people, and now you have neo-Nazis showing up at the same time. So, like, it would have been nice to have had a heads up so we could have planned for this, especially because we know that later that they became violent. We were told that, like, if they come, if this specific group ever comes again, we can immediately call the police and they can, like, shoo them off now because they have been violent. But yeah, I mean, there were police, like, all over. I mean, there's probably FBI all over too. I mean, it was everywhere, but particularly, like, it was sort of like in the middle of the road. A lot of the police were situated, and then on streets, particularly in it would be South Main Street. They were, like, really down there, because, so for those who know Concord, the U-Haul was right next to where the churches you go to vote. I think it's a religious school, actually.
St. John's. I used to live in Concord.
Yes.
Okay.
So it was right there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was very frustrating. They let them get in the U-Haul, which I personally don't understand, because, like, that technically isn't legal.
And can I just point out,
I would have liked for them, once a violent situation happened like that, and you have people who are masked who you can't identify, they should have gotten their identities, I think, at least. Just later when you're suing, you know, like, who was there, you can verify, like,
so
this person, like, there was a violent situation, let's make sure nothing else happens. But instead they're more focused on, like, stopping people from engaging with the Nazis, which
I kind of
agree with to some extent, but also, like, I wish they had got the Nazis as well. Like,
right,
exactly.
So I saw kind of interesting, kind of a mix of that, because I had a slightly different perspective. I was pretty close to sort of, like, where it all ended. Like, so this is well past they beat the guy up. So sort of where they all kind of coagulated, if you will, as the blood tribe, you know, blood coagulating. Anyway, where they all kind of coagulated and hung out and kind of exchanged verbally with passerbys and people on the side of the street and all of this. And there was a few things going on here that maybe, I don't know if you guys know, but, like, so there was this one guy that was, I think, probably publicly indicated and was championing our side, but maybe not the kind of hero you want. And he was, I think, in some ways diverting from any type of, like, actual arrest they could have made, or further, interaction with the Nazis and exploration with it. What he was saying is, first off, like, wouldn't back off, because it is their job as police, whether we want them to or not. They can't, obviously, part of me would love it if the police had gone and hit them with billy clubs. I would not have lost it,
Sure.
I wouldn't have lost any sleep over that. But I also realized at the end of the day, we don't want them doing that, because God forbid if they did that, they also do that to people in the left
Right.
if they didn't like them
You
too.
got to protect everyone's civil liberties.
Trade-offs, right? I mean, you don't want your police force just deciding who they're going to beat up
Right.
because they happen to piss them off that
Right.
day. So I'm glad that they weren't violent back. I mean, that was actually a good thing. The other thing is, this one dude was like, yeah, well, if you try to stop me, I'll beat you up too. So we had some stupid, like, that's why I'm guessing he was drunk. Some stupid quasi-homeless dude challenging the police, which took away their focus. And then, plus he's yelling, F Nazis, this, the Nazis are yelling back, come at me, bro, take my mask off. So, like, it's all absolute chaos. So I don't know. I'm not a policeman. I'm actually, and I'm not one of these like big, like pro cop guys at all by any stretch. I also have to understand the fact it's not an easy situation. And that combined with the fact that I only have had, at least with the Concord police, positive interactions, it would seem to me weird that all of a sudden they became like neo-fascist in this situation, like almost like, oh my God, we can be the real fascists that we are.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know what was going on, to be honest. There were a lot of craziness.
Yeah, I guess my thing is I don't know if it's a holdup in terms of like the law cannot properly address this, or if it's a holdup
Right.
in like the police did not properly address this, And the truth is probably a mix of both.
Right.
Well,
I mean, it's not like they're going to be perfectly prepared for like a Nazi rally coming, even if they
the other thing is
warning.
Right. The other thing that's very interesting, not to interrupt you, but this is something to think about. Being someone that loves crime shows, whenever they have like mixed jurisdictions, like agencies, there's actually like a power play, like an internal power play as to who's running the show. So the FBI, if it was the FBI or the ATF, I'm sure, not to be whatever, but for lack of a better word, I'm sure trumped the local police and the state stadies.
True.
I'm sure there was like a jurisdiction battle going on over here.
Yeah.
So there's all of that inner like politics going on as well. So, I don't know. That's a good point. The whole thing was bizarre, honestly.
One thing we know it can't be is a lack of manpower.
No, it was not.
Because I used to live in Concord. I actually grew up in Concord. And I'll tell you, for anyone who's not familiar with Concord, New Hampshire, it's a very, very safe city. But you can't look 10 feet in any direction without seeing a patrol car. Concord is so heavily policed. At one point, and I have no idea if this is still true today, but there was a point where Concord, New Hampshire had the most police per capita of any city in the entire country. I don't know if that's still true now, but there are police everywhere in that city. Because I saw a couple people on social media saying, oh, they probably, you can't expect the police to do everything. They probably didn't have enough cops. No.
Oh my, yeah, no. They were FBI like patrol. There was I mean, there had been at least like, I think the entire like Concord PD had been there. Like, I mean, it was like dozens of Concord PD cars. There were state troopers there. I mean, like everyone. I mean, the fire truck was there. There were ambulances.
Yeah,
I mean,
you would have thought there was a shooter on the.
To give you an idea, like, so South State Street, like South Main Street, it is not like a pedestrian friendly area. People do not just like walk on South Main. Like, it's not very friendly. The street was full. Like, I mean, people were like, must have been like gotten out of their cars to stop by after seeing, like, I mean, it was like kind of packed. Like, I've never seen South Main Street that busy.
Right.
It was insane. Like, everyone was like, what's going on? Like, it was this like kind of like game of telephone going on. Like, we couldn't tell if there's one person who got hit, 2, 3, where the Nazis were, what was going on. Like, nobody knew.
Plus, like, there was even like a sort of like, even myself, now that I think about it, it's like, it's like we heard the Nazis are there, like to arms, the Nazis are here, and we all went chasing them. I don't know what we thought we were going to accomplish when we caught them. I don't know.
Right.
I mean, so it was the opposite of like run away from the fire. Everyone ran towards it. Yeah. Everyone's like, yes.
That's funny. Well,
it was interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've been we're just at over an hour. Should we start to wind this one down? Is there anything about this we didn't talk about or explore? Or
Did you want to talk about the victim?
oh yeah.
I don't know what's going on. I mean, I don't think he's pursuing charges, or he's
Okay.
at least considering maybe. But yeah, it seems like this might just all blow over, which again kind of sucks. I would hope there'd be some action.
Yeah.
I think I'm the kind of person who always likes to think of like the future.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really interesting conversation in terms of like, again, like where should the limit of freedom of speech be? Like, can you just describe Nazism as like inciting violence inherently?
I
And
think
this was another conversation, like I know me and you were having, Andrew, of like,
yeah.
Whatever we do, like whatever limits we impose on the Nazis could be used against, for example, pro-Palestinian protesters at colleges. And we actually saw that in Germany, which Germany has much stricter anti-Nazi and anti-defamation laws, and they did use them against German students protesting what was going on in Israel.
Yeah, you have to be
So
very, very careful when
it's
restricting
very
speech.
You
Yeah.
do.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, it's
I
always.
mean, I feel like this is like a pretty cut and dry, like they wanted to come to incite violence.
Yes.
And I think this is
Agreed.
more of like, my question here isn't really like how, like, should the law, and more of like, how do you craft a law that specifically targets this? Because I do think it is distinct in a way, like there has to be some way you can separate this from like peaceful protests,
Right. So I think that if you use I think that if we use kind of like the if to do the law, we kind of looked at the version of the ACLU's mission statement. I think basically, and I'd have to like do a deeper dive into it, but basically, if the speech is not hate that is meant to drive a level of aggression and ultimately create violence
or
then
intimidation,
that is not protected speech. So I think that you could make that rule, and I think we would have to make the compromise that even if it is friends of ours, if they screaming at Trumpers to the point where they were going to like just go beat them up just because they had red hats, then we would have to say, yeah, you know what, you're going to be arrested, and frankly, they have a right to arrest you.
On the flip side, though, I do kind of worry because honestly, I would be, this was like a one-off Nazi protest, and not to say that they aren't common or becoming more common.
Yeah.
But like we definitely are much like the left definitely has more protests and more impactful protests, larger protests, and we receive disproportionately more violence. So it is something that I'm definitely cautious on in terms of limiting, because whatever we implement could potentially be used tenfold on us.
But
just
the other concern,
and honestly, I mean, I don't think this was very successful for them. I mean, or if it was successful for them individually, it wasn't successful for the right overall.
No, I agree. This is not
honestly,
a successful.
If they want to keep doing it, okay.
I doubt if they recruited anybody from this.
No, they definitely didn't. They actually, I think, probably got a more negative response.
Well, here's the thing, though. They probably were able to recruit some people. One, 2, 3, 4, like of the Nazis. The Nazis probably ate it up. But like amongst broader public, probably not. I mean, it probably
they did not.
Overall
public
loss.
Opinion, which is why I say this guy go ahead and press charges. Because here's the other thing too. The Attorney General made a statement on this too, and she's actually so Kelly Ayott's trying to still look like everybody's governor, even though we know she's not. She still tries to play that she's a more moderate Republican. So it won't. She could keep her more conservative agenda and still give the left one bone by having these Nazis prosecuted and ending up in jail. Like that would not hurt her move. If anything, it would normalize her and make her look like a hero. There would be just as many people that would say that would actually say, look see, Kelly isn't that bad. She actually is more liberal than we think. Go after the Nazis.
Right.
Can
cast a spell and arrest them though.
Can you charge? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Andrew.
So this just goes back to like what I said. Like again, it's not a Republican and Democrat issue. It's an American versus a Nazi issue. Again, I know again with all the stuff that when it comes to like Republicans and stuff like that, I know a lot of them are not okay with Nazis.
Right.
I mean, it's true. So
Yeah.
like,
That is
and also like what I said before is what we need right now is to get together as a community and have those conversations of how are we going to stop this? Because
Right.
again, if they try some shit like that again, and
Mhm.
people show up in even bigger crowds than before and be like, "Hey, get out," they're going to be less likely to do stuff like this. So that's why I feel like it's so important to get people in the community from both sides of the aisle to have these conversations of, "Hey, we need to stop all of this going on with
for
ourselves
sure.
and figure out, like, actually look at the actual threat to our community and put an end to things like that."
To mention, it really looks so if you are a sane person on the left or the right, really championing people is not going to make you look good.
No.
So,
Yeah,
because the overall public opinion in the United States when it comes to Nazis is we don't like them.
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't
Yeah.
like Nazis. And
yeah, that's so there are people that are okay with them, but what I was saying also though is that I don't believe that, not to say I think she likes Nazis. I don't necessarily think that, but I do think that that's in her world. I think what she would be
Yeah.
thinking is politically and strategically, if she were to prosecute the Nazis, it would make her look like a hero to people that maybe otherwise wouldn't necessarily see her as someone viable to vote for in the future. It would
I
actually
think
look good.
politically it'd be very savvy of her.
Right.
But I don't think she
exactly.
doesn't have that power. Again, she can't just like wave a wand and
Can-
prosecute the
well,
Nazis. I
Can
mean, she
you
can probably
charge
open doors and move things, but if the guy doesn't want to press charges, that's step one. Nothing can happen.
Well, they could actually, she could go. What I'm saying is going. So if this were what, let me say, like DC, for instance,
Right.
is a very strong hate crime. The police, all of us, we would not need the kid to press any charges.
Right.
The fact that they did what they did, group, we
Mhm.
could say we threatened, and then we could press charges against them, and they would be tried for hate crime.
Can
Right, but
you charge them
I
for
doubt we have those on the books though here.
In New Hampshire, I don't know. I'd have to
even
know.
if she like were to I mean, I think what she could do is work to create like specific legislation around this as like I'm kicking
Right.
this out of the Granite State,
Right.
and make it a whole thing. But I think the reason that'd be so successful for her too is because she knows like on the right, a lot of even like the more like right-wing, alt-right groipery types it wouldn't be a thing that would stop them from voting for her. It'd be very like
right.
formative
Right.
in that way because she's not actually stopping like the harm her party's doing to minorities. She's just going after this like specific group of niche Nazis that like no one really likes.
Is there a way to
Also-
charge them for conspiracy to incite violence? Is that a thing? I don't know anything
I
about
think-
the
what
law,
I'm
but I feel
wondering.
I
like
think the fact that the kid is involved. So this kid, I don't know enough about, but like the guy that's their head who didn't have his face covered,
Mhm.
he does have like notoriety
yeah.
within the white power alt-right movement, and he's known for going. He's actually the main story. You guys can look it up. It's on a podcast. There's a whole story about this guy who is ill and getting pushed out of Maine,
Mhm.
and he basically documented it all. He infiltrated it, all this stuff, and he used I think the power of social media and some other things, and I think he did end up getting the FBI involved because what he went with is, again, they were trying to form a paramilitary like training camp. So most governments, conservative,
Mhm.
don't want a group
Right.
of citizens trying to form a separate military.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, I
that's
wonder
the
where
thing
they're
is this
situated
group,
now, though.
this group
Well,
has a
that-
long
Are
history
they
of
living
stuff
in
like
New
that.
Hampshire?
I mean, this group has brought
That's
rifles
the guy
to
that did
pride
it.
parades. I mean, this group has a long history of inciting violence. And again, you're
Yeah.
Right,
trying
is
to
known for that.
stage, yeah, you're trying to stage a training camp. You're bringing rifles to events, like, and then you're
More
gonna
than
go
rifles.
exactly like you're gonna go out and you're gonna talk about making certain groups of people disappear. Like, is that not a threat?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
in any other world, that I feel like that is a threat.
I think there was even, I mean, in some of these cases, for instance, there's even like example. I mean, I guess it's like lower tier stuff, but like there's examples of them planning like assassinations against liberal journalists, like trying to like car bomb, judges that didn't go the way they
Even
wanted.
people
So
like me who are photographers, they target.
right,
Like it's
exactly, like going after anyone that is sort of a voice against them.
Yeah.
So they're not beyond that. I mean, and I think in their real world, especially like the guy whose face was uncovered, they're not that far. Like a lot of times they're used as sort of the foot soldiers for your David Dukes or whoever is the current version.
Right.
You know, they want them to go out and do this stuff because these guys believe in it, but they're 65, 70 years old and like obviously can't go be combatants, but they're funding them.
Right.
They're supporting them. So they really are supported by actually some case. It wouldn't be an easy case, but you probably conspiracy RICO charges against these people. I mean,
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
But isn't RICO also state, not national? Because I don't think we have RICO in New Hampshire, do we?
I mean, there's an organized crime division of the FBI. That's actually what they were formulated for. So theoretically, the FBI would be their purview.
Okay.
I mean,
I feel like
from what I remember, because I remember I was listening, because I was listening to the Rotten Mango podcast about the Diddy trials, and it was talking about the RICO charges, but I think they're filed by state, not by national. But don't quote me on that because I'm not like an expert on RICO charges.
Yeah, I thought you could do that federally.
Can you do them federally?
I think so, but I'm not. I mean, I don't know enough
that's
about
how they
the
get
law.
mobsters.
But I feel like when you talk about criminal conspiracy, it's almost a nebulous thing where you can kind of make that fit whatever it is that you're trying to get to in terms of charging someone. So that's why I'm thinking you charge them with criminal conspiracy to incite violence. Maybe that works.
I mean, the ACLU could definitely, if they felt like these people were a real threat, and they have enough like backing behind them, you could, at very least, you could have civil charges against these people. I mean, there's all things you can do. You could make their lives very, very unpleasant.
But the other thing now, though, is we also don't know their names. Like, we don't know their faces or their names or who these people are.
Well, we know the one guy.
We do know the one
so
guy.
That's why I'm saying.
But
that's why you would go with an organized crime charge, because you'd say basically they're part of his mafia, like in essence. And once you get number 1, you don't need to get number 15.
I mean, I don't know. The tattooed lizard guy could take over.
Well, probably what would happen is and actually it could potentially go up the ladder because like this guy's tough until they're facing federal prison. And then all of a sudden
he sings,
sing. Yeah.
It's a thing. Yeah, absolutely.
And then I will say the last thing, my concern is that because I've heard this in person, not at this particular event, but I've had plenty of 50-51 events, other protests where young left but not organized, not really part of our organizations, they're just there as like participants, have come up to me and said, don't worry, if the Proud Boys show up, we're packing. So, I think in a way for the police to ignore this would be very dangerous too, because at this point, if it's not like if the left thinks they have no support from law enforcement, they're going to just back down. Like they feel almost as desperate, especially people that are in fringes and not connected to organizations and are like in this, they feel just as the alt-right. And if they feel they have to resort to violence to protect themselves, they will. So
I'm going to put on my like 50-51 hat here and just preface by saying 50-51 is like non-violent. We do generally encourage people not to come with weapons.
Right.
Correct.
Just for like general group safety. Obviously, like the acts of these individuals like cannot be regulated, but I just want to put that out.
No, absolutely. And we're obviously against violence too. As political, as a political director, I would never encourage these people to have the guns. I mean, these people literally just walked up to me and said, don't worry, we have guns, which is a worry, frankly, because, how do I know you're not going to just overreact? And one person says, I don't know, F whoever, and now you're shooting.
Well, that
like,
happened
that's not
in
going to help
Utah.
me.
They had these like so-called peacekeepers that one of them were using for the protests, and then they were like very trigger happy and not as well trained as they had claimed, and also had brought a gun, which they were not supposed to do. So it it definitely gets messy, especially like when we're talking about large groups.
Which is why I think that have a plan, like a crisis plan and stuff, and
which is why having the police alert us so we can be aware and plan for it, because it's definitely hard when we're setting up, just like have Nazis sprung on us, and it also like, again, like public wise, like these people are like literally going there threatening the live. Like it's just interesting how if they had said this about like an individual, like we are going to eradicate like XYZ person, like that would have been a crime. But to say
Yes.
a group of people, well, that's not a crime. It's interesting because if anything, the second one's worse, but because it's not like an individual person, it's not counted as defamation.
I think it's because of the I mean, they are thinking of, I mean, once Democrats get back in power, I think they were thinking of changing that whole thing. But I think it's maybe the viability of it. Like if like your goal is to kill Jason or Andrew or Todd, you're probably it's probably a lot easier to accomplish. But if your goal is to kill, you know, every left-leaning individual in New Hampshire, well, that's a pretty big So I don't know. I mean, that's a bad reason for it, but I'm saying maybe that is the reason. I don't know enough about it.
I appreciate you're leaving my name out of that, by the way. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Matt.
No, I don't want anyone
on the
to
Nazis hit list.
I don't need I don't need to give anybody any ideas about killing me. So thank you.
You know, it's interesting to see how like far spread their ideology has gone. I mean, even I don't know if people follow like international elections, but like Japan has like Sensato, which is this like super far right group that wants to make Japan for Japanese people or put Japan first, which is interesting because like the country's already like what 97% Japanese, but they're like worried about this. Like their lives are being ruined by like the 3% of foreigners they have. Like it's again, it speaks to the sort of delusion of like no matter how ethnically homogenous these countries get, they're still like so worried.
That's interesting.
And it's just interesting how it's spread. Like they even use like the America first, but like Japan first. And this is true for a lot of countries. And even you could argue that
you always have
Trump's style of politics was stolen partially from Orban's style of politics in Hungary. And it's this rise of this new sort of like liberal fascism, like this fascism that operates within the liberal system that doesn't fully try to like take over the government, but it like slowly backslides them.
So it's almost like liberalism is the catalyst. So
yeah,
it's like,
and we're seeing that now with even
what you're saying is the liberal system allows them
gerrymandering and stuff. Not, you know, I personally support Democrat. If we're already gerrymandering, I support Democrats.
That could be another episode.
But you know, we're seeing like more and more election rigging now. Yeah, on both sides, but especially Republicans. And I do think it is worrying because we are really like we are experiencing intense Democratic backsliding that is reminiscent of what happened. You know, now we have all these other countries that are also starting this process now.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting about Japan, though.
I
didn't know that.
All very interesting.
Yeah.
Although Japanese have been known to be nationalists before. I mean, look at the red zeros.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they were
crashing
on
it's not just Japan.
death.
I mean, it's every country. You have Norway. You have
I think
Finland,
you're going to find this in every country.
The Netherlands. You have, I mean, even Spain and Portugal.
Well, even in Africa, there's like pecking orders of like, you know, sects of different, and you know, in African cultures that are superior to other groups. So it's always the case. I mean, and then you're always going to have your power hungry people that also are smart as far as smart manipulative and know to exploit this to get what they want.
Right.
So it's all very interesting.
All right. We probably should get to wrapping up.
Yeah. Well,
the show, I feel like people actually, you know, watch this.
Yeah, I think this is a really productive conversation. And like, it's definitely, again, something we're going to have to watch out for. Not even just the Nazis here, but like the Free Staters. That's
I mean,
that often, you know,
conversation
there's been more talk recently, but like, I mean, they're definitely a problem. And at this point, a lot of them, it's weird because they've moved further right, where they used to have this sort of libertarian thing going on, but now they've almost gone the way of the Nazis, like adopting a lot of like the racism, dropping a lot of their more like libertarian social prescriptions. So it's interesting. It's definitely interesting in New Hampshire, particularly because it is the epicenter of this like right-wing pivot in New England.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we're the last holdout, unfortunately.
Right. But I mean, even New Hampshire can escape the broader trends. Like we're one of the few places in the country that's actually moved left relative to 2016.
That is correct.
We actually voted more for Kamala than Hillary, which is very rare. If you look at the map, it's like us and like Atlanta and maybe some parts of North Carolina and a couple other stragglers, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think it's like a loud minority, frankly.
Right.
I really do. And the citizens. But the problem is that these people that are in power are very good at manipulating these people. And also, they're also very good at like, yes, all these horrible things are happening to you, and it's because of the left. So,
Mhm.
you know,
But that's also
things
on
we
us
gotta.
because we really gave up on a bunch of this country, and now it's biting us in the ass. Like you know,
Well,
we.
we got frustrated. I think, but
But I mean,
that could
like
be a whole other story.
we should have a much stronger game in Iowa and Ohio. Like we just
But it's
Florida,
difficult to
like Florida
continue to love
Democratic Party
people
is
that want to
famously
strike them.
useless. And it's like there's a lot of these areas that we need to win if we want to take over the Senate and actually be able to like do anything
It's
because of the
true.
filibuster. But also
It's
like,
true.
like again, like a lot of these states, I think something people look at is percentages instead of looking at the raw
Yeah.
numbers of votes. Because a lot of these
Right.
lower
That's why I believe
population
in a.
states, we need like a couple, like tens of thousands of people. Like it's
So that's
really
why,
not
Matt,
that
I
many
believe in
people that
like
we need to turn out.
That's why, Matt, I believe in like a full scale assault. I believe we should go in there and just kind of like, kind of take out the main enemy, and then we can send in the Jasons and the Andrews,
Mhm.
and they can like, convince them that we do still care about them and all of that.
I
After I've
think
like,
what we need to do,
desecrated their power structure.
this is my radical belief. You know how you know how like in China they made all like the city people go out in the farms for like
Yeah.
3 years to like learn how it was really tough for the farmers and then everyone starved. I think we should do the reverse. We should like make all of your like hicks go and like live in Brooklyn and work at like a coffee shop making matchas for like 2 years and get like
Yeah.
a bachelor's in like
Get
gay
their nose
arts,
pierced.
interpretive like ballerina or something bullshit, and then go back to Kentucky and like,
Right.
now that they've
Pick an
been
anime
cultured.
character, yeah.
Yeah.
Like you
Well,
will
let's-
become a performative man. You will drink the matcha. You will read the
You
TikTok
will drink
book.
the matcha.
You will have a tote bag.
You will become gender nonconforming.
Well, let's wrap this one up, guys.
Yeah,
No,
you're right.
no,
Sorry.
that's okay. This has been wonderful. I think a great conversation. Andrew Voorhees, we will see you tomorrow. I'm sorry, not tomorrow. Saturday morning
Saturday, yep, I
on
will be there.
on Matt Connerton Unleashed, which you can, of course, that is every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 noon from WMNH 95.3 FM here in Manchester, New Hampshire. But you can stream the show from anywhere. Go to mattconnerton.com/live. And Andrew, for people who want to learn more about your photography and everything else that you're involved in, where should they go online?
So online, Facebook, Friday Photography. I also have a website, which is friday-photography.com. You can also just search up my name on Facebook as well, and I'm also on there. And I also have Instagram. Let me pull that up because I always forget it.
And we also keep him working very hard in the campaigns. So
Yes.
you can just kind of tag along with us. And
Yeah,
give
if
him a
Sarah's
go.
somewhere, he's probably there too.
Yeah.
All right. And then Instagram, it's just my first name, all lowercase, Andrew .v13.
All right. Very, very good.
All right. Awesome.
And Jason, what should we know about where to find you? What do you want us to
I'm
make sure we
actually
know?
not very on socials, but
Okay.
usually you'll be able to find me at the 5051 info booth if we're holding an event. So come
Excellent.
at me if you have any questions.
Excellent.
Or with Sarah.
Or with Sarah. I'm also basically always with Sarah.
Okay.
And
you
I'm
and
not
Todd
with
both,
Sarah,
right?
I'm on call with Sarah.
Yeah, that's where we all are right now.
Yeah, pretty
Excellent.
much.
Yeah.
You want to mention her campaign website too?
Oh yeah, well, you can go there. Sarah sees for 603. Currently we just have mostly like where she's at and some of the more like rudimentary stuff. We're filling it out this week to have some more of her like policy and about her. To give you a little rundown on Sarah, though, I know she hates giving her rundown, but she's a progressive candidate, and what I think is unique about her, though, is she really has the experience. She's spent the past 3 years helping form and run the ACU, the American Coalition for Ukraine. I was going to mention it, but we do have what is essentially the Ukrainian flag in the background here with the blue and the yellow.
Oh, cool.
Fun little fact. But yeah, no, she's super experienced. She's met with like Congress. She's helped craft legislation for like some of these multi-billion-dollar Ukraine aid bills. I run her schedule. She's almost constantly like going down to DC to meet with these like foreign ministers, like the foreign minister of Estonia or of Poland. So she's super experienced, and I think we're at a really interesting point where there is this big desire for progressive change, but ultimately, even if we have a massive progressive blowout in the House, we still have to work with the centrist Dems that are there to get stuff passed. And what's great about Sarah is that she is a progressive and she holds progressive values, but she also can work to build these coalitions and build these bridges that we need to get the stuff we want passed, and maybe pull some of our more conservative Democratic options we have in New Hampshire a little bit more to the left.
And she's already got relationships.
Yeah.
So, that's the other part.
All right.
So
yeah,
anyway,
I think she's occupies a really unique spot in New Hampshire politics and potentially national politics, especially because Ukraine is really one of the last, so quote unquote, bipartisan issues that actually exists. I love watching her talk. She's just so good at connecting with people, and I think that is a talent that she can bring to Washington and really build some of these bridges. And one thing I've learned, particularly as I've gotten more involved with politics, is how weirdly interpersonal it is. I think from the outside, everything looks very positioned and very oh, this person is firm on this. And then you talk with people who are in these really high positions of power, and they'll go oh, I didn't think of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of baffling sometimes, but it's true.
There's still
sometimes
people.
Just having the ear of someone really can move their positions drastically.
Absolutely. Very good. Very good. Well, thank you. Thank you both, Jason and Andrew, for joining us. Todd, anything to add before we go, or anything you want to mention about?
No, I think we've gone, a long time.
Yeah.
And furthermore,
I
think
an hour and a half we've passed.
Yeah, that's okay. No, it was a great discussion.
Yeah, it was awesome.
But I would love to also invite these guys back at some point, talk about other things.
Course.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of things to talk about. So yeah.
100%. Great.
To speak to the importance of diversity in New Hampshire, I'm going to go get some curry.
All right.
All right.
I am not, but you enjoy that. And thank you to everyone.
I'm gonna probably go play Dragon Merge.
There you go. There you go. You enjoy that. I am going to go put this podcast up on the streaming platforms. So thank you to everyone who subscribes to the podcast online, and of course everyone who joined us during the live stream as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, we'll do it again. Andrew, we'll see you Saturday, and
I'm sure I'll be on again sometime.
Absolutely. Very good. All right. Thank you, everybody. This has been episode 8 of Hanging Left.
Goodbye.
Bye.